All right. Well, if you're just joining us, please feel free still to jump in on the chat. We're inviting people to share their name, their organization. If you want to share a goal, personal or professional for the new year. Someone else just shared that their after school goal is to keep their healthy routine. Thanks for sharing that, Selena. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I just want to welcome everyone to the Advancing Health Equity and Out of School Time Virtual Institute. As you join the Zoom meeting, I invite you to introduce yourself and share a goal, as people have been doing. Feel free to keep that going. A few reminders as people join and we get ready for our time together. This meeting is going to be recorded and the materials will be shared, including the recording and the PowerPoint slides. They'll be emailed to all registered participants after the event. Additionally, everyone came in muted, but we just wanted to make sure everyone knows that you have the ability to mute and unmute and to turn on your video. Invite you to use the chat box throughout the training to ask questions and share from your own experience. This is really intended to be an interactive opportunity to share and learn from each other. And so we hope that you'll do that. We have a fantastic team here to support the Institute today. I have colleagues of mine from EDC, our partner partners at the National After School Association. If you're having any issues with Zoom, let us know in the chat. We have two great tech hosts supporting us today, Anna and Liz, and they'll be sure to work with you to make sure you can fully participate. Also want to make sure that folks know there's a live transcript available during today's training as well. And we can go to the next slide. And just a brief reminder for everyone. Thank you. So my name is Claire Grace Jones. I go by Claire Grace and I work here with Kate Goddard as part of the collaborative for advancing health equity and out of school time. And that what our goal is working to improve the health and well-being of youth and staff and out of school time programs with a particular focus on groups that have been marginalized and are most impacted by health disparities. And the goals specifically for our virtual institute are here, and we are really working to increase understanding and of application and practices that promote health equity, promoting youth health and well-being through the healthy eating and physical activity HEPA standards. So you'll hear us talk a lot about those today. Provide resources and capacity building, both through what we want to offer to you and absolutely what we want all of you to bring to this conversation and offer with each other. And of course, promoting a process of quality improvement. Next slide. And so just briefly, our community agreements that we've had through our virtual institutes and our workshop sessions, we ask that you bring your whole self, stay engaged, participate in discussions and activities, ask questions, share experiences. I invite you to turn your video on if you are in a space that you are able to do that. And as I said, please feel free to unmute, to share, and to share in the chat. So just a brief overview of our agenda for today. Welcome and introductions. Check, we're on a roll already. We're going to spend some time defining health equity. We're going to look at the health equity strategies in action. We're so excited to have Maureen Neumann from the National Recreation and Park Association. So a little bit more from her in just a little bit. And then of course, we're going to have time for all of you to get to connect with each other during some breakouts. And then we'll talk about some next steps. And of course, feedback, always need to be soliciting your feedback and looking at how we can improve what we are doing. And then very briefly, these are today's training objectives on the next slide. And so without further ado, we're going to just do, we can jump to the next slide, I think. We're going to do just a brief warm-up activity to find out a little bit more of our group. If you are able, we are going to play a game called Stand Up, Sit Down. I don't know how many of you might be familiar with this already, but if the answer applies to you, I'm going to invite you to actually stand up if you want to turn your camera on and have a little fun with this. If you are not able or not comfortable or not in a space where you can stand up, you can feel free to be on video and actually raise your hand, or you can use the reaction button to raise your hand. And so if you have worked in the out of school time space for more than a year, please stand up. Everybody, so stand up if you've worked in out of school time for more than a year. All right. I'm going to move this on my screen right here for 1 second and pull this up so I can see everybody better. All right. If you have worked in the out of school time space for more than 2 years, so put your hand down, sit back down. And then if you have worked in it for more than 2 years, please stand back up. All right, everybody can sit down, lower your hands. How about more than 3? If you've been in the out of school time space for more than 3. All right, Anne, thank you. Oh, we've got lots of folks with hands raised, Emily and Jean and Thomas. All right, so you can sit back down. How about if you have been in the out of school time space for more than 5 years? So stand up if you've been in for more than 5. Let's see, we've got some virtual hands raised, not quite as many. All right, more than, so everybody can put their hands down and sit back down. More than 10. Who has been working in this space for more than 10? Looks like we've got Sherry and Thomas and Morgan. All right, more than 15. We got any takers? More than 15? Morgan, Sherry, Jimmy, and Thomas. These are your potential mentors. These are folks that have been at this for a while. All right, last one on this, in this same vein here, more than 20. Anybody been working in this space for more than 20 years? Amazing. All right, there is so much knowledge in this room. All right, so everybody can sit back down and put your hand down. Stand up if you work currently or have worked directly with youth. And so stand up or raise your virtual hand. Oh, look at all the people enthusiastic about this one standing up. All right, you can sit back down. Stand up or raise your hand if you have worked in an work in an administrative or program management role. All right, we've got lots of people raising their hands and reacting to that one. All right, go ahead and put them all back down. Sit back down. And give a minute for the decks to clear here. All right, stand up or raise your hand if you have looked at the HEPA standards. And we're just curious to gauge the audience. If you haven't had a chance yet, there's no shame in that here. Just curious. Great. It looks like a good % of folks have had a chance to look at them or already have been utilizing them. All right, last one. Stand up or raise your hand if you have used the HEPA standards assessment tool. We got a few folks. All right. Great, actually, because we're going to talk about that today. So if you haven't used it or you don't know what it is, then you will get to hear more about it. And for those of you who know about it already, we're so excited to have you on the call to be able to share your thoughts and experiences with your peers in utilizing that. So thank you. So I am, now that we're kind of warmed up and introduced and gotten things going, I am going to hand things over to Kate Goddard. Oh, no, I'm going to hand things over to Sarah.
Thank you, Claire. What a fun activity. It was so fun to see all of my Zoom windows like tile in and out. So hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Gabriela Hernandez. I'm part of the team. And so for today, you'll only hear from me very briefly, but I'll be providing a little brief overview to kick us off on health equity. And so we thought, we're going to continue to bring up health equity in all the work that we do, and what a better way to do it than to continue to highlight the definition and share out a little bit more about how we might begin to understand what this could look like in practice. And so this is a definition that we've shared previously, and really health equity is focused on folks having a fair and just opportunity to be as healthy as possible. And so it goes a bit beyond health disparities, which just focus on differences, to thinking about opportunities and the conditions that give us opportunities to be healthy and happy. And so we also included this brief graphic here. I'm sure you all have seen variations of the graphic. There's the one with like the fence and the people next to the fence. This one is from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that depicts the differences between equality and equity, terms I'm sure you all have heard of before. Equality meaning, everybody has the same access to resources in the same, they're provided similarly despite differences between people. Whereas equity really focuses on folks getting the resources that they need and what's appropriate for them in the space that they occupy. So it considers an understanding of the barriers, the circumstances, and the conditions that can contribute to a person's health and health equity overall. And so when it comes to out-of-school time programs, one could think, and I would encourage you all to think as you reflect on health equity as a sort of potentially abstract concept, to make it a little bit more concrete. One way that might be translated is thinking of youth and programs, right? Do the youth that I serve in the program that I do, we saw a couple of program folks in the room, do they have equitable access to what they need to give kids the opportunity to be healthy and to achieve health equity in the programmatic context? So next slide, please. One of the concepts that is intrinsically related to health equity, as it is concerned with the conditions and the context that we live, is influencing our opportunities to be healthy in fair and just ways, are social determinants of health. Some of you might have heard this term before. This also might be a new term. And social determinants of health are really those conditions in the places where people live, where they learn, where they work and play. These are the conditions and contexts that can influence people's health. And so this graphic that you're seeing on the slide here is from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Healthy People 2030 plan. They really nicely organize social determinants of health in these general buckets or categories, if you will. This is not exclusive to all that exist, right? But you know, you think of education access and quality, healthcare access and the quality of healthcare services, the neighborhoods and communities that we live in and the built environment. There's also social and community context, culture, for example, and finally, economic stability or economic opportunity. So these are all various conditions that can really make a big difference in youth and people and their opportunities to be healthy. To add another layer onto that, which is not depicted in the graphic, but sort of flows and cycles through all of these social determinants of health, are factors with identity. So factors like race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, ability status, geographic location, educational background, economic status, right? The list can go on. All of these aspects of folks' identities and where they come from and how they show up to places that are, of course, intersectional. These can also impact or influence opportunities people have to access the things that they need to be healthy, and can be influenced by unjust and unfair policies, practices, and differential treatment, which is why the sort of just aspect to health equity becomes really, really important. And so there are so many of these conditions that affect where we live, learn, work, and play that can impact our health and are so intrinsically related to health equity. But what we wanted to do today was to share a brief story with you all. It's going to be a video clip. But this video clip comes from the Chicago Department of Public Health and their Healthy Chicago 2025 plan. And they developed brief snapshot stories to tell a brief snapshot of what a resident in the city of Chicago could experience in a Chicago that has health equity, that considers social determinants of health. And so as you hear the story, listen in for some of these social determinants of health and how all of these things can be related to each other to create opportunity and to be healthy. And so I will go on mute now, and if you can start the video. It's about 2 minutes long.
Juliana's walk to her grocery store took a little longer today. There's always more foot traffic on Saturdays, but today the sidewalks were bustling because of the community meeting happening in the park. She loved seeing her neighbors out and about. She'd just chatted with Reina, who came in to buy some paletas de hielo, and now Mike was coming her way, holding Jameer's little hand. In the park, Joni and Charles were setting up the concert, and Malik was in a peace circle with young people. Her heart warmed with the thought of two words, La Comunidad. She could remember when the neighborhood wasn't walkable, and when distrust, not warmth, blanketed the street. 5 years ago, few storefronts were open, people didn't feel safe, and the street was lined with unattractive empty lots toward the train station. Small business owners and street vendors like her, who depended on the boulevard for their livelihoods, were doing their best to revitalize the area, but progress was slow. Then, the pandemic and protests hit like a 1-2 punch. People were dying. Renters and property owners were worried. Shoppers stayed away. Fear hovered. Then, almost instantly, love showed up in the form of community solidarity, selflessness, and action. Juliana and her neighbors organized food giveaways, checked on seniors and other vulnerable people, created rent support pools, and held events to keep kids safe and busy. They looked to the city for large-scale help, and the city responded with short and long-term policies to support the neighborhood. Funders and banks stepped up their community commitments with planning grants, recoverable loans, and pro bono advisors. The Renaissance was real, and Juliana was a part of the change. Fresh Orchard Market Co-op thrives in the Healthy Chicago 2025 way, in a city where residents can find essential resources and services within a short walk, bus, or train ride from home, and where commercial corridors include locally owned businesses that contribute to the vitality, culture, and affordability of communities.
Thank you so much. So hope you all enjoyed that brief story. I feel like it weaves together all of these issues quite nicely. And so with that, I think we're going to pass it on over to hear more from our presenter today to offer more of a deep dive for what this work can look like in practice. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah. That's great. And we'll make sure everyone has access to the links to the video in case you had any audio issues, but that played back great. And I'm excited to introduce Maureen Neumann. We've already introduced her earlier, but we're so excited to hear more about the work that the National Recreation and Park Association is doing around health equity. So Maureen, I'm going to turn it to you. And thank you again for your time and for joining us today.
Great. Thanks so much, Kate. And thanks everyone for having me. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So I'm Maureen Neumann. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior health program manager on the National Recreation and Park Association's health and wellness team. So I've been with NRPA a little over 5.5 years now, and I am located right outside of Richmond, Virginia. So in my day-to-day, I manage NRPA's food access portfolio, which really strives for equitable access to healthy foods in communities across the country. Broadly, that work supports NRPA's strategic mission to establish parks as community wellness hubs that advance health equity, improve health outcomes, and advance quality of life across 7 different but interconnected dimensions of well-being that are actually modeled from the social determinants of health that Sarah mentioned earlier. Slide, please. Thank you. So that picture in the background of this slide is actually NRPA's headquarter office, which is in Ashburn, Virginia, in the Northern Virginia region. We're a fully remote workforce now, but still have this beautiful space to call our work home. So our time together today, I'll just run through who NRPA is, why we are in this conversation, how equity shows up in out-of-school time programs, lay out some really actionable steps to advance health equity within your own work and your own lives, and then hopefully save some time for questions at the end. Next slide, please. So who are we? The National Recreation and Park Association, or NRPA, is the leading not-for-profit organization dedicated to building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation. So NRPA advances this vision by investing in and championing the work of park and recreation professionals as a catalyst for positive change in the service of equity, climate readiness, and overall health and well-being. We have a network of more than 60,000 park and recreation professionals across 10,000 park and recreation agencies. And that includes advocates who represent public spaces in urban communities, rural settings, everything in between. We really champion and support the field of parks and recreation through professional development opportunities, advocacy efforts, grants and programs, which is where I sit within our work, research, publications, and so much more. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So why is Parks and Recreation in the conversation with you today? We all know the benefits of out-of-school time programs. You do it every day. Seeing all those hands raised was amazing today. But you really work to provide childcare. You serve as a safe space for kids, create the opportunity for physical health benefits, and then offer that socialization that is so important to childhood development. Next slide. But what may not come to top of mind is that Parks and Recreation is actually one of the leading providers of out-of-school time programs. In fact, more than 4 in 5 park and recreation agencies offer a variety of out-of-school time programs. So programs ranging from early childhood through teen workforce development. We really see Parks and Recreation as a key part of providing benefits, providing those benefits of out-of-school time programs to communities across the country. Next slide. And when polled, Park and Recreation professionals really noted these areas on the screen as the areas of feedback from families they serve through their out-of-school time programs. So similar to what we already talked about as the benefits, but what's interesting here too is the wide range of categories. So we see things like economic drivers, like childcare, workforce development. There's the physical components like activity, access to healthy foods, social and mental well-being through socialization and connection to caring adults and an education support, the environmental benefits like connection to the outdoors, cultural and art experiences, and then exposure to diversity within the community. Next slide. So this really brings me to the overarching way that Parks and Recreation agencies serve their communities. We are seeing more and more agencies stepping into the role of community wellness hubs. So what is a community wellness hub? At NRPA, we define these hubs as trusted gathering places that connect every member of the community to essential programs, services, and spaces that advance health equity, improve health outcomes, and enhance quality of life across 7 different but interconnected dimensions of health. Next slide. So here are those dimensions of health that I have mentioned now a couple of times. I'm just taking a quick look at those. Notice if they sound familiar. So they're actually the same areas where we saw folks noting the benefits of out-of-school time programs. We've got our cultural, we've got our economic, our emotional, physical, social, intellectual, environmental. It's exciting to see this crossover, and it's also exciting to think of what a hub can be. So I like to think that you're serving as hubs every day. These are really either physical locations where folks come and have access to services, or they're more systems level concepts where you're partnering with different organizations to connect community members to those opportunities for health and well-being. Next slide, please. But above all, we really think that community wellness hubs are essential to health and well-being. They remove barriers, they bridge gaps, and they help people access vital health and social resources, ensuring that all people can thrive. What we're really seeing is that this work is done in 4 phases. There's the phase to collect information, to engage stakeholders, identify vision, and then develop an action plan And then within each of those phases are ongoing actions. So things like building partnerships, advocating, communicating, evaluating, fundraising, and above all, really centering and advancing equity. So ensuring the programs that you're developing and delivering are truly meeting the needs of your community members. Next slide, please. So then how do we see equity show up in our out-of-school time programs? We think back to the way we started this conversation, we really know that out-of-school time programs are at the core a place for kids to feel safe and to be cared for. So by centering equity, these programs are being developed and delivered from a place of wanting all kids to have what they need to succeed. NRPA did an out-of-school time research report in 2021, and from that we saw equity fully being integrated on the staff level by things like training staff on DEI principles and competencies, ensuring programs and practices and policies are equitable and inclusive, building authentic partnerships, taking youth circumstances and experiences into consideration, ensuring that aspects of programs are culturally responsive, having diverse representation in the development and planning and decision-making of programming, looking at demographic data to understand who's being served and who is not being served, where those gaps are, and then conducting equity and inclusion assessments of your out-of-school time offerings and operations and making adjustments along the way based on what you're seeing. This also, when we're talking about equity, includes looking at the accessibility of programs. So things like, are they affordable? Are scholarships offered? Are memberships on a sliding scale? Are they physically accessible? Are they easy to get to? Can you physically get inside the building? Are they welcoming, meaning does staff represent the community served? So just a few things to keep in mind when we talk about what accessibility is. Next slide, please. So centering equity and advancing equity feels like a big task, and it certainly is, and it's not something that is done in a silo, but it is something that we feel everyone can and should do in some way, shape, or form. You are such a huge part of the out-of-school time system. So you are those caring adults in out-of-school time programs. You are the ones creating safe and nurturing environments, and you are trusted by caregivers with their most prized parts of their life. So knowing that out-of-school time programs would be nothing without you showing up every day, I really do challenge you to see yourself in this system. Know that you have agency in this work, that you are serving young people in your community. You can play a role by making a big difference in being intentional and by doing the work within yourself, within your agency, and within your programs to ensure equity. Next slide, please. So some of those actionable steps to advance equity. NRPA has developed a framework called Elevating Health Equity in Parks and Recreation, a framework for action. This is a great tool for anyone, not just park and rec professionals, but it really helps folks get clear on why equity is important and how to advance it within yourself and your network. So the framework starts by outlining some guiding principles. First, we have center health equity. We really believe that when health equity is centered in strategies, initiatives, policies, the full power of your work will be realized. This is something at NRPA that we have taken on ourselves. We center equity in all that we do and come from that place in everything that we put out. Second is Parks and Recreation are a pathway to advance health equity. And not just for Parks and Recreation, but for all out-of-school time programs. We see when professionals leverage their skills, their assets, and their expertise to create just and equitable access to programs, services, and activities, they can promote better health outcomes. Third is reimagine inclusion. So in out-of-school time settings, the concept of inclusion really must go beyond ability and access and should focus on who, how, and where people are included. So looking at the entire framework. Fourth is a focus on learning. So we see that committing to this work requires a constant examination of self and systems, connection to individuals who are not like you, and a willingness to share failures and successes. Really seeing equity work as a journey It's on a continuum. There's no end point. So acknowledging that there's a lot of growth within this work, and we won't get it right every time, and that's a good thing, right? That's how we learn, and that's how we grow. And then fifth is to respect the environment. The park and rec professionals, their partners, and the open green spaces they manage can really be catalysts for creating, maintaining, and activating spaces that are not only resilient and regenerative, but also celebrations of diversity. There's so much diversity in nature, and having that tie-in is so integral in how we see and approach and advance equity. Next slide, please. So once you have committed to the process, we really encourage you to explore the self-assessment that is within this framework. This is a really impactful activity as it highlights the two ways to reflect on yourself when engaging in equity work. So there's the individual separate from the system and the individual as part of the system. So to break that down a little bit, there's Maureen, who shows up in her everyday life, and then there's Maureen, who shows up as a part of the NRPA team and as part of advancing this work. It's really important to take the time and consider your own thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, your own lived experiences, and the way that those impact your work. Again, this is not coming from a place of judgment. It's just showing you a little bit what your own identity is, what you consider as your own identity, and that helps to illuminate how privilege operates to normalize some other identities over time. So how you show up in this work, maybe why you show up in this work, and getting a little bit clearer on how others show up in their own work. Next slide, please. Another great tool in this framework is what we call the good, better, great checklist. So like I mentioned, we really do see equity as a continuum with no end point. This checklist is designed to provide you with a snapshot of where your agency and where your program is on this continuum. There's no wrong place to be, and there will always be opportunity to achieve and advance equity in your work. So we encourage you to use this checklist to determine your agency's current position and opportunities to move to the next level. I think what's cool about this checklist too is that it's not linear. So even though it's laid out as a standard checklist, we don't believe that you need to have one column fully completed before moving on. We think it's exciting and awesome to see yourself across these different columns and across these different areas and see where you are and where there are opportunities for growth. Next slide, please. So what we talked about today was high level, I know, and really just scratching the surface. So I invite you to visit nrpa.org to learn more about the role park and recreation professionals play in advancing equitable systems, and to really dig into these frameworks and toolkits around these topics. So the Community Wellness Hub Toolkit, which is our newest resource, takes a look at advancing those 7 dimensions of well-being that we talked about a little bit earlier, and ensuring that all have what they need to succeed. There's evidence-based strategies, there's case studies, there's really tangible steps that you can take to advance equity within your work. Next slide, please. And then our Elevating Health Equity and Parks and Recreation Framework for Action helps apply that racial equity lens and way of thinking when developing programs and services. There are the activities that I showed you earlier, the self-assessment, the good, better, great checklist. There's also an agency assessment to do as a team. There's a call to action where you can outline steps that you would like to take within your organization, outlines who you can partner with, really sets those opportunities up for success in a clear way, and gives you prompts to check back in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, see how those programs are going and where there are areas to improve. Next slide, please. All right, that was fast. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I am happy to answer any questions, or in a few slides here, my contact information will be shared. So please do feel free to connect with me. I am always happy to chat and answer questions. So thank you.
Well, great, Maureen. Thank you so much. I'm gonna share the rest of the slides in a minute here, but we do have time for questions. And so I haven't seen any in the chat, but I want to just pause. And if anyone has questions for Maureen, you can come off mute and just ask your question, or feel free to use that chat. I had a question though, while you were presenting, Maureen, which was so you have these community wellness hubs. Would going to that website, that link, help me find a community wellness hub in my community? So if I'm a program and I'm looking to connect, do you have recommendations or strategies for how to find those in my community or how to make connections there?
Yeah, great question. So the website doesn't have any sort of database to find a hub within your community, but the way we really like to approach this is that community centers, out of school time programs, parks and rec within your community are these hubs, whether they call themselves that or not. So really looking for those partnership opportunities and looking for ways that you can work together to connect folks to opportunities to support their own health and well-being. That's what makes any area a community wellness hub.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone else have questions? We have a couple minutes before we.
Kate, it looks like Thomas has his hand raised.
Great, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Maureen. This is Thomas with Alaska After School Network in Anchorage, Alaska. Was calling to just, or wanted to ask a question in regards to, how you've seen park and rec programs use and adapt the framework that you shared. Have you seen it where it's really the state collaborative? So like many states, we have like Alaska Park and Rec Association. Are you seeing it kind of move through there down to local regions? Or are you seeing local kind of just adapted? Just really interested in finding out more how you're seeing folks kind of latch on, or the training supports that have gone into local communities or into regional coalitions.
Yeah, great question, Thomas. We're really seeing this for our own purposes, start on the local level. So those conversations are being had kind of within departments of seeing this framework, seeing the possibility it has. A lot of times those conversations are then taken to the leadership level, which is city government in a lot of cases. But really seeing those changes start on the local level, having those conversations getting clearer within their own priorities, and then seeing that take root through policies. So the Healthy Out of School Time framework has a lot of great policy recommendations, things like that. We're seeing coalition building, partnership building, and a lot of kind of what we're calling our grassroots initiatives. So I think there's a lot of room for trickle down from the state level, but certainly seeing a lot of the work happen on that more local side.
Awesome. Thanks, Maureen. And I know there's one more question in the chat box, and I'm going to ask it because I think we've talked a little bit about this, if you don't mind, and then we'll let you go. I know you also have to leave us today, so thank you so much. But so do you have any recommendations on facilitation skills that might be useful for difficult conversations that come up during the agency assessments? Yes,
super important question. And thank you for highlighting that. There are some recommendations within the Elevating Health Equity Framework for Action that talks about bringing in facilitators or working with partners to have those difficult conversations and creating a safe and brave space so folks do feel comfortable having those. So there are some recommendations outlined in the framework, but certainly I would be happy to make some connections as well once we share my contact info.
I think that was timed right? Are you able to
That's
see that?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So absolutely would love to connect with you on NRPA side. And then the next slide has my email address where I would be happy to connect with you personally. And just thank you again for having me today and for all of the great work you are doing. It's so important.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen. That was excellent. And so many resources are available. Just so everyone knows, we've included all of the references and links at the resource page. We'll make sure everyone has access to the links and resources and contact information. And just want again, thank you so much, Maureen. We're excited to be partners with you on this work and looking forward to what we're going to do together next. So thanks so much for your time and for the excellent presentation. So I'm just going to move us along quickly before we go into breakout rooms and just kind of reemphasize a few things that Maureen has kind of already shared. But I think one of the things that, speaking to the choir here, that we all know is that out of school time programs, research shows that out of school time programs help young people achieve academically and social emotionally, and also helps to support their long-term health and well-being. And we all know that, we know this from our work, but we also know that there are some key evidence-based strategies that we can do to advance health equity. And so what I've put together here too are just some of the things that we've been talking a lot about in the Institute, just to kind of reiterate what those strategies are. So increasing access to healthier foods and beverages. We talked a lot about this when we introduced the healthy eating and physical activity standards and in our December workshop. But again, we know by providing more access to healthier foods and beverages, we're supporting young people on their journey to health and wellness. Similarly, with their access to physical activity opportunities, I think Maureen really highlighted that as well, especially through the role that Parks and Recreations can play in providing those spaces. So increasing access, thinking about partnership opportunities and connecting to those kind of community resources is another evidence-based strategy that, again, our field already does so well, and we can continue to keep doing and emphasize the way that these strategies can play a role in advancing health equity. As I already mentioned, really OST fosters the healthy mental and emotional and behavioral development of the young people we serve. And I think one of the things that we do so well in OST is that family and community engagement, and that being an evidence-based strategy to really support healthy behaviors beyond the school day, beyond your program, but in, you know, the extension of the child's community and their livelihoods. And I know we've been talking a lot about these, and Claire Grace led us through a fun opening activity, but we cannot underscore enough that one of the key strategies that you all can do to really help commit to and advance health equity is to have a shared definition of program quality with regards to healthy eating and physical activity standards, or physical activity being these healthy eating and physical activity standards. As we've already talked about, the standards are organized. The first group of standards are really focused on science-based, evidence-based practices to increase the nutrition education and physical activity in your program. And then the other 4 standards categories are really centered around the additional supports to create the environment in which to support young people in their in serving them in their health and wellness. So there's a lot of standards that really focus on how to provide professional development and training. There are standards that really talk about the social supports in your program supports, and then those environmental supports. So while the standards are very comprehensive, they are also kind of chunked in categories. So as you're thinking about your work and where you want to prioritize, you know, strategies you want to implement or standards you want to implement, we encourage you to think about it in these categories, to think about where you might want to start first. Is it thinking about just how do I increase physical activity in my program, or nutrition standards in my program? Is that's where I really want to lean in on? Or maybe you're really thinking about the supports you're providing to your staff, or what about you're thinking about what is happening with the family engagement and environmental supports that you're building in your program itself. So just wanted to highlight how those are organized and how you may think about them in your work. And then Maureen kind of alluded a lot to this, and we will be talking about this as we move into breakout groups. But I think it's really important, again, as we think about the standards and this work and committing to equity, to also kind of think about these questions as you think about what you know, and as you think about gathering information, and how you prioritize what work and what action items you might want to take forward, moving forward. So when you're thinking about your work and you're looking at the HEPA standards and you're trying to identify goals and priorities, I think it's important for these 4 questions can help kind of guide you in thinking about this. So are the most affected by the issue, by the work that you're kind of dealing with, involved in defining the problem and shaping the solution? So how are you engaging the young people in your programs, the families that you're serving, in discussions around understanding what they're affected by and how they can be a part of the solution? And Maureen talked about this as well. What are some of the conditions for these communities that need what they need most? What are some barriers and unintended consequences that you may need to account for? What are some things that you may not be thinking of? You know, just asking yourself these questions, kind of think beyond what you maybe know and what is right in front of you. And then how do we ensure that we are effectively implementing and enforcing strategies across all those that all the communities we're serving? So we wanted to preview these questions as we move into breakout groups, because I think it'll help you think about what is it that we know, what resources, information that we know and can gather, and what maybe do we need to find out more about. So with that, I'm going to turn it to you, Claire Grace, and I'm managing the slides now, so you'll cue me when you want to show the Padlet.
All right, great. So time for breakout discussions. Next slide, please. So we just wanted all of you to have an opportunity now to talk with your peers and colleagues and to do some thinking about what this might look like. We're going to use Padlet again, which we've used on a couple of our previous calls, but just wanted to take just a minute to show you what it looks like in case you're not familiar with it. And so we're going to put you all into breakout groups. We're going to ask you to choose a note taker for your group, and that person will be able to put their comments right into the Padlet for your group. I'm going to show you what that's going to look like in just a minute. But also wanted to show you here that when we have some time for debrief, the thing that I love about Padlet is it also then will give you the opportunity to go and read what other groups have written, and then you can like and comment on other people's posts as well. And if you want to stop share for just a second, or might force you to stop there by clicking onto this. I just want to show folks really briefly. So this is what today's Padlet is going to look like, and just wanted you to make note to pay attention to which breakout room you're assigned to, because each group will do one of these groups of questions, and we'll take a look at the questions in just a minute. And that the Padlet kind of scrolls with this bottom bar over. So if you're in group 5 or 6, you may need to scroll all the way over to get to the where you can put in the information as the note taker for your group. So Kate, if you want to reshare your slides, or someone on our team, thank you. Awesome. So we designed this to get a chance to kind of walk through, look at what potentially after looking at the HEPA standards and doing your assessment, some of the things that you may choose as your goals. And so each of the groups will have one of these goals. You don't have to remember them or look super closely at them now, because they're each written right in that colored Post-it that's at the top of your group. So each group will be assigned one of these goals. And then Kate, if you want to go to the next one. And then there's a connected place for you to make comments on each of these areas. And so what I really want your group to think about is, what resources would you need to address this goal? And consider not just fiscal resources, which often I know that it does come down to, but not just fiscal resources, but things like, what are the needed skills that you might need if you wanted to be able to implement this? What kind of expertise you might need to bring to your table or your program? Will you need space? Will you need transportation? And so think really broadly when you're talking about resources and what resources might be needed. The second question that you're going to answer is, what kind of information or data will you need to make planning and implementation decisions? And I want you to think about those questions that Kate just shared, what the other presenters talked about today. And so, think about, what would you need that could tell you more about the social determinants of health in your community or in the population that you're serving? What kinds of information would you need to help determine if all of the participants will have equitable access and benefits from your services? And then thinking about what partners you would need to engage to do this planning, and then also the implementation. And again, thinking about who has access or can help you interpret and share data, who can bring a cultural lens to your work, who can inform and bring have discussions around equity considerations, and as well as thinking about access and resources. And so we are going to put everyone into a breakout group, and you will be in that group for 10 minutes. And then we'll bring everybody back together and take a look at the Padlet as a group and have a little further discussion.
All right.
Okay, folks are being invited back to the main room.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Welcome back. Bianca, I really appreciate your participation. I've noted I always kind of keep mine on to see the gallery so I can see who's on video and if people look like they're kind of interested in what's talking about still. And so I really appreciate you've seemed engaged this whole
Yeah,
webinar.
absolutely. Thank you for having me here. I've been taking some notes and then just kind of going online to see what other resources are available and opening up the links that were shared in the chat. So really
Great.
excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, our pleasure. All right, everybody's coming back. Hopefully that's always a good sign of conversation when people don't come back till the breakout room makes you come back. All right, we got just a couple more people still coming in. I think we're all back now. All right. So we are going to keep the Padlet link in the chat because you're welcome to go back in and look at what other people shared. You can also, what I like about Padlet is you can kind of or you can comment on things. And so we can have some kind of simultaneously conversation going in there. We also are going to leave that Padlet up. And so we encourage you, even after this time together is over, you're welcome to go back to it. If you want to pull some additional ideas or you have an additional thought, you could certainly, you feel free to go back and to continue the conversation beyond just our time today. But we have a few minutes. I'd love to hear from your groups what your discussion was like. Is there anyone that would be interested in volunteering to share out from your group?
I'd be happy to.
Great, thank you.
We're from room 4, and we talked about offering daily outdoor physical activity, which I love to talk about because sometimes we like to utilize the playground. And while that's wonderful and fun, that's not always the best, thing to do. So for the Post-it note that said what kind of information will you need to make in planning and implementing these decisions. A group member said to survey the students about what would interest them and then survey the staff about what they would be interested in providing, and then assessing the resources that our programs already have, and then also taking into consideration weather and safety conditions of where your program operates, and then also ensuring that you have backup plans or alternatives just in case. And then the resources that we would need to address this goal, of course, utilizing what we already have. So if you have an outdoor space or materials, supplies, utilizing, of course, what you have, and then ensuring that we have supervisors or those that are willing to provide the activities. And then we got into talking about material. We would need certain materials and supplies and curriculum based on what the students and staff expressed interest in or expressed interest in leading, which also meant having equipment if they wanted, field hockey or some other wonderfully brilliant outdoor activity. And then if we wanted to utilize contract services, ensuring that we have money for fees that may be associated with that. And then also ensuring that we have adequate space to offer outdoor physical activities. Some of our program spaces may only have a field, or some may only have a playground. And so if you have students that want to play basketball and you don't have a court, well, then that's obviously not going to work. So then we talked about the third sticky note that was up there. What partners would you need to engage the plan and implement the goal? And off of the conversation about the resources, we talked about utilizing local community spaces. That if you are a program that has an outdoor field and yet you would like to have Fridays be the playground day, and you have a local park nearby, you guys can take a walking field trip to that. Or if you have only a playground but students would like to utilize a gym or a field, maybe there's a community space nearby. But then we also talked about utilizing community resources for partners, your local library, or having library people come in, do outdoor reading, first responders that could do anything outside with your kiddos, or just any partners that you have that could offer connections. And then utilizing your family members, so parents, guardians, et cetera, that are in your program, maybe even teachers that would want to volunteer to lead a club once a week or do something else once a week. Any committee members that you have that pour into your program. So yeah, just ensuring that we're taking all the stakeholder voices into making decisions, implementing resources, and then utilizing partnerships.
Awesome, thank you. Does anyone from their group your group have anything they want to add, or does anybody else want to comment about that or add something to it? You're getting some thumbs up.
I think one of the things that the group had, I'm Bianca from room 4, was that they really talked about also having curriculum. And so instead of just having free play, they talked about the ability to, see how we can incorporate learning and physical activity. So I thought that was a really good point that the group made. So kudos to group 4.
Thank you. All right, is there another group that would like to share out what you all talked about? I think we've got time for one more group, so don't be shy. I spent a lot of time working in community prevention. And so one of my super strong strengths is the ability to sit in the uncomfortable silence. Like, I'll just wait till someone else volunteers, but I don't want to put you all through that either. So I'll give a minute to see if anyone else would like to share out from their group, or we can also take a look at the Padlet together. Is there anyone that would like to share your thoughts or share from your group? All right, let's pull up. We got just a minute left here, a couple minutes. So we can pull up and take a brief look at a few of the things that some of the groups shared. And so room 1 was talking about creating meaningful opportunities for parents and guardians to engage in decision making, which I know can be really challenging sometimes when you think about logistics and all the things involved with making sure that you have parent voice and engagement. And so some of the resources that they talked about needing was just having access, having their information, making sure they have family phone books, using surveys. Someone suggested this AIR Beyond the Bell, a parent advisory council, and staff training and professional development on how to do it. I think that's such a great observation. I think we sometimes assume that staff know how to do these things, how to reach out, how to set up a group, how to pull in, how to, solicit information and feedback from folks. And that might not be something that they're really comfortable with. And so it might be that one of the resources that you need is some training or a facilitator guide or some talking points or questions or things like that. And so that was really helpful. And then what kind of information they might need, knowing that parents, families, interests and concerns, availability of the parents, and the backgrounds and cultures of the families. And then I'm gonna jump around just a little bit because we have just another minute or two. And I know we heard from group 4. I think there was one group, let's see. And so let's jump down to group 6, which was actually about having all staff participate in professional development on healthy eating, nutrition, and physical activity once per year. And so resources include money and training materials. Information that might be needed would be having a copy of those HEPA standards. Happy for the shout out for those there. And then thinking about what kind of partners might be needed. So some of the comments included USDA and state organizations, federal government and state Department of Education, cafeteria supervisors, 4-H and the YMCA. And so, as I said before, what I like about Padlet is that you are able to go on and you can read the comments and then you can share a little like, or you can add your own comment. And so we definitely encourage you to continue the conversation and thank all of you for participating in the breakouts. And I'm going to now hand it back over to Kate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Claire Grace. Thanks to you all for your ideas and sharing. And as I keep reiterating, we will make sure you have the links and you can look back on all of this and get some resources like the AIR Beyond the Bell, which is a great toolkit, and that link there that was shared in the Padlet. So we'll make sure you all see all that. Okay, so now we're going to just kind of talk a little bit about some next steps. So Anna, can you go to the next slide, please? And as we've been talking a lot about the healthy eating and physical activity standards for out of school time. One of the resources that we noted, we polled early in the session was around the healthy eating physical activity self-assessment tool, if anyone had used that. And so we did want to spotlight that as a next step for you, as something to take away, is to go download and go explore all those great resources that Maureen had shared, and also to take some time to spend with the self-assessment tool. And so we previewed this before, but I think what this tool does is it really helps you explore the HEPA standards, and then just gives you some reflection and some prompts to identify goals and standards that you want to work on and address. So as you, Liz posted the link to the self-assessment tool in the chat box. And as you look at it, you go download it right now if you want, or preview it after today's session. It really focuses on walking you through 3 main steps. The first one is the assessment. So to carefully go through the self-assessment tool, it prompts you to take notes and record evidence related to each of the standards. And then when you're finished, go back through and then rate each standard based on the evidence. So you kind of do the whole tool, and then you kind of revisit your evidence and your notes, and then you kind of give yourself a rating. The second step in the process of using the tool is to reflect. And so at the end of the tool, you'll see there's some reflection questions to really help you consider your results and think about areas of strength and areas of opportunity. So this is kind of helps you think about what you might want to prioritize, and to kind of set priorities for yourselves and for your program. And the final step in the stage of using the tool is to plan. And that is to create an action plan, to set goals, to plan for needs and resources, and to establish a time frame for meeting your goals. And in the healthy eating and physical activity self-assessment tool, there is a standard action plan template. And then the Alliance for Healthier Generations has one as well that's linked to the assessment tool. So there's all of that's there at the ready for you to kind of dive into exploring the standards, doing this assessment, and thinking about setting your own priorities. And I do want to just say that as you kind of look at the assessment tool, kind of reflecting on today's session and thinking about the work that you want to set forth in action, it's really important to identify clear, program-specific, achievable goals that can be measurable, that are within your budget and your staff capacity. So never, these standards weren't designed to be implemented like the entire set, right? We know that there's some limitations. Your programs have different needs and different goals. And so really be mindful about what it is that you want to do for your program and define those goals that are specific to you, to that. And then also one of the things that we really encourage you to do, and we've been talking about it throughout, is just really engaging others in this work. And so you don't have to do this alone. Think about engaging community partners, think about engaging the young people you serve, families you're interacting with and engaging with, to be a part of this process. It may be something you want to have a committee or a planning committee to do the self-assessment tool together, or maybe you want to engage them in helping identify and prioritize goals. There's lots of ways to think about it, but we just want to really emphasize the role of engaging others in this process. So next slide, please. So here's kind of our call to action for you all today and leaving today, is to kind of think about moving forward. So as we've already outlined, the HEPA self-assessment tool is designed to inform an action plan. And so here are some additional steps we want to encourage you to think about and to engage in as you leave from today. Is to think again about who you can engage as maybe a planning team or as be a part of this process, so you're not doing this alone. Complete the HEPA assessment. Take time, spend some time looking at it, reviewing it, and do the reflection that's necessary to really understand what it is that your areas of strength and where are maybe some areas you want to improve. And then do that step of really thinking about what you can prioritize and what you can achieve, what is achievable for you, and work with that to create an action plan. So that's our hope that, as you're kind of thinking about next steps, that this is the kind of pathway for moving the work forward and really to thinking about how we're going to be advancing this health equity and out of school time. Next slide, please. And we've been showing these slides a couple times. I know we've seen them, but again, And I really appreciated Maureen's also emphasis on their commitment to action and ours as well, which is just, you know, as a participant in today's institute, really just thinking about committing to action. And here are some ideas for doing that. Just kind of re-emphasizing what I just said, you know, complete that HEPA self-assessment, explore those resources. Again, really the work that the Maureen was sharing about their equity framework and really centering equity in this work, and the resources and tools they have available to help support self-reflection as well as agency reflection are really, 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 really great resources to explore. So we encourage you to go download those, check those out, and think about how you can, you know, bring that work into your programs as well. And then on February 7th, we're going to have our other TA workshop, just like we did last time. This is much more focused on peer exchange and learning, and we're going to reflect on what we're learning from doing the HEPA self-assessments and talking about action planning. So as we're kind of closing today, we would love to hear from you. Is there one thing you're taking away from today's training? So you can share in the chat, and one thing you are committed to doing next. So if you're kind of taking some time, think about what is something that you're wanting to commit to, or something that you're taking away. I encourage that you share that in the chat. And so, you know, by putting it in the chat, you're starting to do that commitment, making that next step for commitment. And as you're reflecting, Anna, can we go to the next slide, please? So I hope to see everyone on February 7th when we have our TA workshop. We're also going to be at the National After School Association Convention. Hope to see many of you there. We're going to be hosting a couple of workshops and just looking for opportunities to meet up with folks. So, please hope to see you there. And then we will be launching a community of practice beginning in March to continue the work that we've started on this virtual institute journey. So you'll be getting more information about that, and registration will be coming soon. And, you know, we'll make sure everyone on this call gets access to that. Yeah, Thomas, good question. Yeah, we'll share the links to the registration for the communities of practice following today's session as follow-up. And then seeing some good commits to action, which is completing the self-assessment for evaluating health equity toolkit and sharing with partners. That's a great one, Lauren. Thanks for sharing. And then next slide, Anna. So there's been a lot of great stuff shared today. So I just wanted to take a moment and just reflect on all the resources. So again, if maybe your next commitment to action is to go explore those resources, we'll be sure we have our Google Drive where all of the trainings and the sessions we've had for the Advancing Health Equity in Out of School Time Virtual Institute live. This PowerPoint will live there. You'll get access to all of these resources and links to all of them. But it includes the things that Maureen shared, as well as both links to the assessment, HEPA assessment, and the standards. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go to our last slide and just thank everyone for their time today. As we've been reiterating, we really would love your feedback around how the Virtual Institute is supporting you and what ideas you may have for future events. So I know that we heard from, I think Lauren, it was you, talked about, you know, asked questions around how to facilitate conversations with staff when doing the equity framework. So if there are ideas, things that you're thinking about that relate to health equity in the work that you're doing in the out of school time, this evaluation survey is a great place to give us some feedback as well for those ideas as well, because we are using this information to design our upcoming community of practice, to think about ways to engage with everybody at the NAA convention. And so please do take a couple minutes, complete our evaluation survey. We're going to let you off now. So we're going to close 10 minutes early, but that gives you 5 minutes to take the moment and complete that survey. And the link is there in the chat box. Thanks, Liz. So I please do encourage you to take a couple minutes right now, give us your feedback. It really, really helps inform our work. And I just want to thank everyone for their active engagement, and to our presenters for all of the content they shared. And thanks to you all. So thank you.